Okay, we're really going to have like two lessons today that are getting towards now. We've through the process. We've done the met with a client, understood what we're doing. We've gotten gone back to the office and started our design from the bubble diagram. Excuse me, from the site analysis to the bubble diagram that you're working on now, and the concept sketch where you're starting to put the spatial theme, which we'll do next. That was the last lesson. Apply the spatial theme to your space and come up with the sketch that you're going to do. What I'm going to show now is how you go from that concept sketch. So far, we've gotten away from the computer, which is kind of hard for a lot of people to do, but to get to where you're putting your pen in your hand and starting to be creative and bubble and move and all that. We're going to now show where to take that sketch and how to go back to the computer, and we're going to talk about some of the different design software options and pieces that are out there, and the sort of pros and cons of different ones, and get some opinions, and I'll give you mine for sure. Then we'll look at the 3D model, some keys to what makes a good model, and then go into some client presentation stuff. So this is where we're starting to move towards getting a final drawing. So that said, let me pull this out of the way here. All right, the concept sketch adds spatial theme to the design. This is where we'll kind of end today in class with creating a concept sketch similar to what this one is, that one of mine that we drew. So it adds a spatial theme. The framework is laid out in the bubble diagram. And the sketch is loose and dirty and free form. There are lots of lines drawn over and over and over on top of each other. You're really trying to find the best shapes for your spatial theme and how they line up and size. And you can see how I've done here, where it's just, I'm just trying to, it's curvilinear, obviously, is my spatial theme through here. And I'm drawing lots of these S curves that are, coming in this span. You can see my mouse, but it'll come in there. I can actually do, well, I'll go back. I guess I can't do it on here without moving the thing across. Lots of different curves. I like reverse curves a lot in my design, where I'll but in this case, a circle punches through and I get to where it comes to a point and then another curve goes off another direction. You can see that in a lot of places. I'll have where it comes through and then dies and then another one picks up, and they interlock and create some interesting shapes in the sketch. And this being able to hand sketch it, and they get fat. It's not like I'm just drawing one line and that's it. I'll keep drawing over and say, I'll go a little closer, I'll go a little further out, I'll try some different lines and take another sheet of paper and throw it off and see what I like, and come up with a space that ends up something that fits the theme. So that's the goal of a sketch, is to get to about this level. You're not exact. We're not creating, I don't know what the total, I've got my grid underneath the drawing here, so I can see about how far it is. I can count my grids and know, it's 80 feet, 100 feet, 60 feet, whatever it is. It's different spaces, but I'm not trying to be 100% on creating a lock in on a shape at this space or a specific size. So I'm not annotating, I'm not dimensioning, I'm not making it final. You can still see some working drawing sketches underneath here too. So once I have this, I'm happy enough where it is, I will take my phone and take a picture. I used to put it in the printer and scan it and do all that stuff. The scanning on your phone now is easier than actually trying to scan it through your printer. I'll do one of the Genius scans or an app on your phone that you just literally hold it over and it finds it and it locks it down as a PDF. Save it as a PDF, email it to myself, and then open the email. And then I put that in AutoCAD. And AutoCAD is the main design software that I use. We'll talk about different options here in just a second, but I'm a big fan of CAD as the main the base drawing software. So in AutoCAD, I know you can do it in or Structure Studios as well, is I'll take the same image I just did here, and from scanned in, I'll underlay it into CAD to where it lines up with the what the known factors that I've got, where the house is, the pool, all the different covered patios. That was on my base plan, so I can scale that in my software to fit, and then I just start drawing. And here I'm drawing some more actual detailed lines. So before, I'm very sketchy and not really knowing full size, but here I'm gonna say, okay, I know how big I want to make this, the bubbler space where the kids play. This is like a big tower that goes across the dip and spill. The water tower spills in, and I know how big I want to make the beach entry and the steppers. I know about how big I want to make this. So I find that it's fitting my scale to work with the furniture layouts and the spaces that I want in my design. But some things you can see underneath here weren't right. Like my buildings in this case, that I had this is a Wild West style design, kind of a cool one I'm doing in East Texas, Big Sandy. I think, is it Jacob? No, someone was East Texas. I can't remember who it was. So a saloon, the Wells Fargo office, the jail, the law office. It's a very thematic design that we're playing with here. So, but I'd started something that I wanted the saloon to be like next to it, and it didn't quite open up in my sketch once I started putting sizes to it. So I changed it, and I moved it to where that moved over, and I made it where you can actually go into the back, like an alley space, and tie the general store to the building here, and whatever else. So I can still change things once I've got a sketch and I start putting actual geometry to it that fits. But I'm doing all of this in AutoCAD, is my primary software. So.
Is this a residential house?
It is a residential.
That's crazy.
I don't know if I would call it a house. But...
Yeah.
Like a ranch, isn't it? It's more like a ranch.
It's a ranch.
This wouldn't happen. This wouldn't happen to be for Michael Hurd, is it?
And that is not. No, it is not.
Okay.
So this guy's his family owned like 26% of Paramount Pictures in the 1920s. So he's not hurting, and he made his money in the storage space business in the 80s and 90s. And he's older and retired in California, and said, you know what, I want to be a rancher in Texas. So by God, he bought a ranch in Texas, and now he's hanging out in the ranch. But basically, his kids and grandkids don't want to go to Big Sandy, Texas, and sit in the hot ranch all the time. So he's going to bribe them by building a backyard residential resort. So we've got
not much in Big Sandy, so I don't blame him.
That now there will be, correct. So this has been a fun design. I'll show it in a minute. So the design, the whole kind of thing goes through it, but this was a fun one we did a little bit ago. So, but and Dakota's on today. He did all the graphic work and just knocked it out of the park. But he's in the class. You can when we get to that stuff, I'll kind of introduce a little bit. But we can you can ask him questions and stuff too on different software and graphic presentation skills, and he's the man. So I'm taking you drawing precise lines, arc circles, cleaning up the geometry, making it work. And this really becomes the base plan of my entire project. And it's not just for the design element to it, but this with AutoCAD, you can share with engineers, share with architects, use surveyor. Everyone has the same software and program that you can ship, back and forth, and they can do the plumbing plans and the lighting plans and the engineering plans and the structurals and everything off of one design. Where I know, like Pool Studio, you can't. It's just you're in user, and that's it. So in CAD, I do layer it out, show what's water, show what's grass, show what's decking, etc. Put furniture in, put all the different features, and make it come to life. So this, now I've gone from my sketch. My sketch is now gone. I've taken it away because I've cleaned it up, but that sketch is kind of, you can still see the shapes of everything through it, of how that sort of layered up and through. And this is I think it'll play here. This is what Dakota did on this project, so you can see it. But see if that's playing. Oh, you see that.
Yeah, we got to hear the volume.
There you go. Is that better? He kind of starts to come into focus, and you get the modeling that ties in, and the Wild West town, and the Indians, and
Volcano.
the volcano. Correct. The the tower. The 4-story connects to the house, so you can see the different ranches above. Tie in. The pump house is the equipment room. So, got the Snake River is the lazy river that wraps around, and got the laminars that shoot into the middle of the spa with a fire feature in the middle of the spa. The Skull Island with a geyser that shoots up 30 feet in the air. And it goes into the cave where he wanted to make it where it's like a mine cave and gold miners and going through that underneath the water and slides, and it's a water park. So, so this is done in modeled in SketchUp and rendered in Lumion. So we'll talk about more of that in just a minute.
You got a price tag yet?
No, not on this one yet. So trying to find some contractors that'll ability to handle it. So
Big Sandy.
yeah, they'll go out to Big Sandy and do something like this and can do it right. So we're in about to be an architectural stage. We're doing the buildings. Architect is next phase. So yeah.
What are all those buildings going to be used for?
What's that?
What will those buildings be used for?
The buildings, basically, one is the general store is like the storage and the floats and everything. The saloon is the saloon, the bar. He's a big Western Wells Fargo collector, just in his history, so he's got that whole bit like memorabilia and that. The jail will be fun, just a fake jail, and just a few random things, but it's just there for what he wanted. So, but yeah, nighttime got the runnels, put light up on the lava runnels going down the volcano and smoking the volcano, and just we kept going, and he kept wanting to change it and add stuff, and we did. So it was a fun design. I like the way Dakota ends it here.
Can't hear anything, but yeah.
Oh, you didn't have any volume on it?
Mine didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks. Okay, sorry. I thought it was
no volume.
playing the volume. All right. So let's go to the next. So that's that was kind of one project. Again, put a few more just to see a few different how the sketches turn into the project. So again, the concept text takes you away from the limitation of the computer. You think outside the box. Another free form one where and just started playing. I had the site of the house. You can see what was there in the computer as I took a picture of basically just on my desk where I am now doing this, and you can see up on the top right in process where I was just doing big loose sketches. What do I want this to be? How do I want some of these shapes to work out? And then that moved to what's kind of on the left, where started refining it and making it closer to shapes that I wanted to add in once I'm getting my concept sketch, my spatial theme. And then the one in the middle is where I started finalizing, okay, this is where I want to go before I put it in the computer. And then that's the CAD design where that one turned out. You can see where one led to the next and tying in. And another one doesn't have, I guess, we don't have any volume. I'll just,
I think if you open it in YouTube, you can get audio.
oh, okay. Yeah, well, I have to go through all the different things, but that's fine. You can kind of just see the graphics of how it one leads to the next, and you can see the process, and it takes it all the way through the presentation stage. So I don't know how Dakota does this, but it makes everything, the trees come alive and do everything. This was he's an NFL player and basically wanted his getaways in the woods, add cabin space, and have fun with it. So you can see different styles. Fast forward through a little bit of this.
Is this the one in Kingston Springs?
Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Nice.
It is. Yeah. And one more doesn't have a video to it, but showing different different theme. So instead of all curvilinear, et cetera, this one is a rectilinear spatial theme. So coming out and doing rectangles, offsets, tying in, working with good views out in the distance, and concept sketch for how the space ties in and works together off the house. And you can see that leads to how the plan in AutoCAD starts to play out. And you can see the different turf areas, deck areas, lines start to play together. And then just a couple of pictures instead of a video in this one, but see how the graphics play in and start to take it from there. So we talk a little bit about what are the options for different programs that we all have the ability to use. We'll talk a little bit about pluses and minuses, and I'm open to y'all. If you have questions or thoughts on certain ones or which ones you use or et cetera, we're have a little dialogue on it. So, but I start with AutoCAD always. That's sort of that's my base, kind of the process I just showed you there. AutoCAD is industry standard. Architects use it, landscape architects use it, interior designers use it, engineers use it, surveyors, everyone uses AutoCAD as their base. So it's easily transferable, pretty easy to learn overall. I mean, it's actually, there's not a easy class right now. We're actually looking at developing some classes to go through all of these different software options that we want to do. But that's sort of phase 2 of where we're going with Elevate. But AutoCAD is the base that I always use, as shown before. So that's
sorry, I just did a university course with the University of Guelph. I'm doing my landscape design diploma, and I just took AutoCAD. I just finished it last week, actually.
Was it a good, easy? Like, did you learn it well?
Well, it goes from day one. Your first assignment is learning how to find out stuff for yourself, how to do research, and how to basically become dependent on no one else than yourself. So that's the first assignment. And then it brings you all the way to producing, being able to produce a design and being able to print it out, and all in 2D only, no 3D. But
yeah, everything in AutoCAD is 2D, correct?
Yeah. And it was pretty intensive, but it's a 12-week, and I got through it. I did well, and I hated 3/4 of it, but when it clicked, and now I feel that I can actually use it, although it's hard to come into after using Structure Studios, where everything is a little bit kind of more easy if you don't get caught up in the bugs.
Yeah, I've got my stories on Structure Studios as well, so been through the whole thing on it. So sure enough. So, yeah, everything in CAD is 2D. This is not a 3D. You can draw in 3D in CAD, but it's very difficult, and it's a whole other story. So the other thing is nice about AutoCAD is the license is about $400 a year. So it's not for LT. All you really need is AutoCAD Lite or LT. When you use it, you don't need to do any of the other stuff that the more expensive version does. So I've got a couple of licenses for our guys for AutoCAD. So the second, beyond just the drawing program, are the modeling programs that you can use. And the one that almost everyone uses is Structure Studios, whether it's Cool Studio, VIP, whichever one it is. Love-hate relationship, most likely. So I probably get a lot of nods on that. But let me pull this up in here and see more. I've used it. I started using Structure Studios when they first came out in about 05, if I remember right. And it was a kind of wireframe and as very basic as it gets, and nothing sexy compared to what it has gotten to. But it was the first thing that anyone ever saw 3D. And I mean, it was like a game changer. I was a hand drafter and drawing by hand and doing the renderings, etc. before that. And once everything went 3D, it changed the game completely for the entire really industry, because a lot of people could start to design. It wasn't just for those that could draft and create drawings on that end. Structure Studios, I used to like it a lot. I felt like for what we did, for what Hunter and I and our work that we had been doing through about 2 years ago, we felt like we kind of maxed out what it could do. I know CB does, great stuff. I mean, you can't even tell that it's from Structure Studios. But one of my biggest pet peeves was I could always tell a Structure Studio, no matter what it is, because of the same pieces. You can just see it in there. So I was always trying to, how can I make this not look like Structure Studios? So and I felt like I just couldn't. We got to a level I just couldn't do it anymore, and I wanted to change. And some of the other softwares had overtaken graphically, but I didn't know it. And that's when I hired Dakota. And Dakota, one of the first things I told him what I wanted to do was, potentially get away from that. And he looked at me and was like, "Well, yeah, here's where here's where you need to go." So we went away about 2 years ago from Structure Studios, kind of thought just for a few projects we thought, and quickly went to just everything was different. So we have been using SketchUp is our primary modeling program. Does anyone use SketchUp? Anyone? Or is everyone Structure Studios? A few people do, some do. Okay. I've hit that age where it's not me doing it anymore on the modeling. That's Dakota and Hunter and Ricky that works with us now that do the actual modeling stuff to it. I'm going to say it is, once you learn it, I learned enough to be dangerous with it. Dakota, I'll let you kind of chime in your thoughts of how easy it is or difficult it is, or what are your thoughts on using it? So.
Hey guys. So I've been in SketchUp since like high school, so sometimes it's hard for me to like remember back, but I have been able to teach brand new people how to use it really sufficiently, like Ricky, to use the program well enough to work with us in like 2 or 3 days. But that's also with him already having some modeling background knowledge, like in Revit, or like some of y'all might have in Structure Studio. So it's a different form of modeling than in Structure Studio, but I think it's more intuitive once you get the hang of it. And then there's a lot of pointers and stuff I can give y'all if y'all are getting into it too.
So it's a good program it's adaptable beyond all the other things you can do beyond just what Structure Studios. You can kind of just do the pool and the outside, and if you try and do the house, it's difficult and the interior sucks and all of that. With SketchUp is made to be used for everything, product pieces, interior, exterior, all of it. You can go as far as deep as you want to. So
Does it, I have a question. So does it go to 3D though? It's a 3D modeling?
Yes, it is. That is the 3D modeling program that we use, correct? So, and everything that was done in the last two videos was all SketchUp. So it's doing it using those as all your buildings and structures and frame, etc. So, but it's not where Structure Studios is the drafting, modeling, and rendering together. SketchUp is the modeling only. It's not the rendering. You have to have Lumion to do that. So, which we'll get to in just a second. Or I think you've got Twin Motion's another one, a few others that are some rendering programs, but they're seamless and they interconnect and they tie in, and it works without a problem. So,
have you guys used a D5 render with SketchUp?
that's a Dakota.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
I've looked into it though. That one's very interesting.
They have a multi-person, like basically you work on the same design at the same time. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
So
they also have a free version, which is pretty complete. We did a render from SketchUp with D5 and this super build up for a free version. And then you just pay like $40 a month.
Very good. Yeah, that's not that. SketchUp is not terribly expensive. I know, Dakota, you bought it for us. I can't, or you like $800 a year or something like that for the Pro. Does that sound right?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but
Okay.
yeah, and SketchUp isn't the rendering program either. It's just modeling. And then once you have SketchUp, you could use D5 render to do the renderings like we do with Lumion.
I was actually looking this up today. It is $800 a year for SketchUp.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'm personally trying to figure out SketchUp, Revit, what's going to be best. Because kind of getting pissed off with Structure Studios.
I honestly,
not the only one.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
I saw a post from CB, I don't know, maybe yesterday or day before, that was like saying, guys, this is the beginning of the end. So they screwed up so much and messed it up and done some stuff to it. I don't use it anymore, so I'm not, part of that. But
so I guess I'm just wondering how, like you said, it's a modeling. SketchUp is modeling, but then you have to change it to Lumion to do the rendering, meaning the 3D. Like, I guess I'm missing the connection.
I can speak on that too. It's in Structure Studio, you do your 2D plan views to model. You model in 3D and you put all your plants and materials, lights, and you make your photos and videos out of it. And our process has been more split, where we use AutoCAD for 2D drawings like conceptual design and then engineering drawings at the end. But then we use SketchUp to do the 3D modeling aspect of it, and then Lumion to do the rendering. But Lumion and SketchUp actually work in tandem with each other, where there's an extension for SketchUp called Live Sync for Lumion, where you can be modeling in SketchUp and it's updating the model in Lumion in real time. And in Lumion is where you put your plants and your trees and your materials, your lights, and all the effects to make it look nice and look real and look really presentable.
But you're saying you build your model in SketchUp and then Lumion makes it beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. So our SketchUp model is very rough compared to the model that you'll see like in the background of this slide, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dakota, would you say that like in the background picture here, the grass may just be the color green in SketchUp, but Lumion gives it the real life textures. And I think that's more of the process of that, and the necessity for it is adding specific textures that are what our eye sees in real life and what we see if we look out the window, or what we see when we go into a backyard, and the plant textures and the shine on something and the reflectivity on the metal roof, and that's what we get from Lumion. Whereas SketchUp is more of a, let me apply something to this to hold place for that specific texture in the afterlife, in its afterlife.
I think that I started out doing structured studios probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I'm pretty good. I'm nowhere near like a CV or anything like that. I don't know that anybody is, but I took a SketchUp, just an intro SketchUp class through Watershape. Dave Peterson taught it. I took that, and I actually prefer SketchUp from a modeling standpoint. I think it's so much easier. I mean, it takes some of the if you're doing a radius, I mean, connecting radiuses and things, it doesn't, I think, the right way. You know, connecting radiuses in Structure Studio to me is hard, and so I tend to avoid them. And then I taught myself AutoCAD, and I have AutoCAD LT to do, the 2D, plans, plumbing plans, and things like that. But I just don't do the 3D rendering, like in Structured Studios, and I haven't gotten to the Lumion. I think before I get that, that's when I hire somebody to do that. But because I'm not going to get to that point at my age, but I can get to SketchUp and do models and I think, as Dakota said, I think it's easy. I mean, man, you draw a square, pop it up or pop it down, or I mean, it's so much easier, I think, to use than Structured Studios.
Dakota, I don't know if you're on, I guess, a laptop at your house, but I don't know do you have a can you pull up one that like shows the live sync and SketchUp and Lumion? Will that share or not? I'm not sure if it's got enough power to do it, but
this computer would crash probably.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, never mind. Thought I'd try it and see.
But there's videos you can see an example of live sync working.
Yeah. So okay, that's kind of it works seamlessly. That's the biggest. It sounds like you have to get out of a program and go to another one, but it's really pretty intuitive and simple. So
we'll look forward to your class on that.
There you go.
Great.
The code will be teaching. Very good.
I have a quick question too, just since Dakota mentioned his computer crashing, like what are the software, the computer requirements? Because as we all know, Structure Studios requires the most expensive computer and they're changing their versions every year and our computers can't keep up. After we have CAD and SketchUp and Lumion and all of this on our computer, like where does that compare?
So
probably
go ahead, you can talk about that one.
So Jason gave me the freedom months ago to build whatever PC I needed, and even like these gigantic projects we're doing, and we're reaching the limits of like some things, some functions. But typically, like we have way more than enough power to run it with our top of the line stuff that we're using. But like this laptop, it is also a gaming laptop, and we use this one to run Lumion during our presentations, and that's in another room. So we're able to hop into Lumion and run it in real time and run our presentations off of that in real time. But whenever it comes to like exporting a rendered video, we needed the higher end stuff to be able to render out like a 4-minute video overnight as opposed to over like 3 or 4 days kind of thing. But I used to work exclusively off of this laptop and it worked well. It just would take longer to render.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't expect a computer to crash. This one has some issues sometimes. So
that's helpful. Thanks.
I always laugh. I had to build them a hydrogen cooled, it's got all the lights and takes up the size of the room. I don't know. So
Quick question about Lumion. As far as plant libraries and things like that, is it pretty basic, or is there a good variety there? Because I know, like in SketchUp proper, there's like the 3D warehouse has some plants to it, but it's not something that you can build a garden like. Is there a good variety in Lumion? How does that work?
Yeah, there's great variety. It's categorized for you, all different types of tree types. There's a search bar because sometimes it's hard to find a specific one you're looking for just through categories. And some of the categories have tons of options. For what we've done, there's been a few times it's been like a very specific plant that looks a certain way that Jason has in his head that we haven't been able to find. But then we find something similar and throw it into the ground and shrink the size to get it to look right.
What you usually do with
It's a
burn?
lot better than the SketchUp warehouse for sure. There's thousands of plants and trees.
And can't you get plugins to do more as well, like different libraries and in Lumion?
I haven't gone into that stuff. I'm not positive if that's more of a thing through SketchUp that then you apply new materials to in Lumion. Maybe though.
So I'll give my opinion on that. I think that one thing that I have not liked about Structure Studios as well was, especially if you're not my opinion, if you're not in the desert Southwest, the plants don't look right. So I'm always, and I never look at the plant names. I just try and find something similar to the foliage I want, and then size it up and down and make it look, okay. But no matter what it is, it's Structure Studios is always going to look like The Simpsons. So, and you get it doesn't look photorealistic. There's, I would say, similar, probably fewer, but similar plant library in Lumion, but they're much more realistic looking. So, and I'm not trying to actually call out in my design, especially in the rendering, that this is auto looking laurel, this is willow, whatever it is. I'm just trying to find something that has that representation, and it looks like a juniper, looks like a red maple, looks like whatever it is. We've always, as Dakota said, we've always been able to find that similar look that we're trying to do. A Japanese black pine, something that's got cool features to it, but gives the idea that it's a full landscape. So from a render standpoint.
Carol Ann, I shared a link in the chat that has Lumion actually has a chart of all their plants.
Okay. And what about objects? Like in SketchUp, are you continuously building your own objects? Or I know there's the 3D warehouse, but as far as, chairs, furniture, all kinds of stuff like that, does all of that come in through SketchUp, or does that get done in Lumion?
So Lumion has some, and I tend to not use them because I usually find better options that I can manipulate in SketchUp through the warehouse, like you mentioned. And sometimes there's even certain things we might get from an actual manufacturer as far as models of objects go too, that we can actually pop in and are real.
Okay, thanks.
So that's kind of the modeling program. The other one that is, and we actually are just switching over to this right now. So I'm not an expert to speak on it, but Revit is the third option for how to model. I know there's, at least I've been sold on it. This may be Hunter's time to chime in and talk a little bit more about Revit and the advantages that you have for that. And so there's your cue.
Yeah. So I guess that we are looking to get into Revit to our entire process, and this is in modeling as well as in our design development drawings, is a matter of how much information can we relay to the end user, whether that end user is the client being the homeowner, and they can relay that information to their builder, or how do we relay the most information possible to a builder, and how do we accurately reflect that on a sheet of paper is basically what it comes down to. So today's world, I think that a lot of it is not just through a sheet of paper where we have been, but also on a communication basis via computer program. And in this case, we're talking about Revit, and how do we share that information across all those channels? And this is like we're sitting here taking Autodesk and AutoCAD software and then going into SketchUp and then going into Lumion and then going back into AutoCAD. So how do we streamline that process, and how do we make our business more efficient, and how do we make our work more efficient, and how do we just continue improving? This is, like Jason said earlier, it's not easy. Sometimes it takes hiring somebody that's a guru at this, or somebody that's got the energy and the availability to be able to get into that. But it's where the business goes. This is where we level up and somebody might stay behind. I guess is the reality of it. A lot of people will. It's really not easy. Jason was not happy that 4 hours into screwing around with Revit this morning, I'm like, hey, I got half the pool designed. We're doing good. Like, I got a floor and some walls. It's a huge learning curve, but what does it take to progress?
So one of the big differences is Revit requires you to have like you don't just draw a shape like you do in SketchUp or Structure Studios. You put all your data into that shape. Like a pool was going to have the thicknesses, depths, and everything. All the engineering data goes into every line you draw. So it takes longer on the front end, but then that can be used throughout. Once it's there, and it makes it astronomically quicker on the back end, especially if you're doing DD drawings and sections and plumbing and all those things. Is that a correct statement?
Also allows whenever an architect is using it for the house, they can send, if they will, they can send their Revit over to you, and then you add to it, and then it starts talking to each other. Correct?
Yeah.
So you can as a builder, we can look at, and as designers, we can look at the project and understand what problems and conflicts we're going to have with piping and footers and all sorts
pocket
of
doors.
What's that?
In pocket doors.
In pocket doors, sliding doors, and
that was today.
And different wall thicknesses and different wall makeups. This is what we're doing today. So there's so many. It's very, very deep how deep Revit can go. It's really mind blowing, actually.
Laura's raising her hand here. What have you got to say, Laura? Chime in here.
Yeah, sure. Hi. I just wanted to add that I know that in Revit it's very difficult to start because SketchUp is very easy to do, like these shapes or sketching even in SketchUp. But Revit or Autodesk, it also has a program that calls Formit, that it's very similar to SketchUp. You can do like geometrical shapes very easily. And then you can take that model and take it to Revit and continue to progressing that. So maybe you can start looking at, because I think it's easier.
What
because
is that called?
Formit.
Formit?
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
I'll look into that. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
That was one of the things that, like, the one thing about Revit that made me a little hesitant to switch over to it for like pools and stuff. As you see, we do so many like crazy shapes and everything. Sometimes all those crazy shapes can be difficult in Revit. And they're pretty easy to draw freehand kind of in SketchUp. But I'll look into Formit because that might be a good link.
Yeah, and also regarding the furniture and that you were asking, there's a page called Beam Object. So you can find there a lot of furniture for Revit and also SketchUp, 3D Max. There's a lot of.
Is this BIM object? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. BIM object. Yes.
Very good. So,
awesome. Thank you, Laura.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Great info. And I'll give one more tip that we found or discovered, and someone sort of let a cat out of a bag and that uses this program, and we jumped on it, and it's been great. In modeling, what takes the most time of all when you're modeling any of it? It's the house, and trying to get the more detailed you are on the house, the better your overall design is going to be, and that's a key, and we'll talk about in a minute, to great modeling. But it can take forever, especially if you're building it from scratch. And Structure Studios, you build it from scratch, and you're trying to figure out roofs and everything else, and gutters and lintels and windows and details, etc. Well, the SketchUp there's a service now. Basically, it's not through SketchUp, but it's called hover.to is a website. And basically, you go out to a job site, and with your phone, you take 8 pictures of the house from front, back, left, right, and then the 4 corners, and you send it in their app, and it's an AI design service. And literally, by the time you get back to the office, they've sent you a SketchUp model of that house. So, and it's accurate, like 95% accurate. Is that fair to say, Dakota?
90 maybe, yeah.
90% accurate, right?
It's pretty awesome though. It saves a ton of time.
Are y'all able to get all your photos for Hover like from like the ground, or do y'all ever have to shoot those from like a drone?
They want it from the ground. Yeah, they
like on some of these bigger houses. I guess some of the places y'all are working. When there's 100 acres behind it, there's plenty of room to get back. But you get in some of these tight neighborhoods, and it's kind of hard to get. If it's a 10,000 square foot house, that's one issue we've had is not being able to get back, I guess, far enough to get the right angles. And then I was just curious if y'all have ever found another way to do that, but
I don't think that's been an issue. Is that sound?
We've had to reshoot a couple times to make sure we had all the to make sure it would accept the 8 images it needed.
Yeah.
And we've been able to make it work. And I've been surprised whenever half the photo is covered up by a tree when it still worked out pretty well. And I can just modify the model that they gave us for the house to get it to be accurate enough to work with our hardscaping or landscaping coming up to the house. So.
Sure. Awesome.
What was the website called?
Hover.to. HOVER.to. So.
Is that like a subscription, or is it a pay as you go, or?
So you pay, it's roughly, if I remember right, it was, I think, $2,000 for a year. And then it is like $65 per house or per job. And that may be a sliding scale. That's based on the amount of jobs we do. I'm not sure if it's less or more, if there's different packages or whatever. But if you consider how much time it takes to model out a house and what it does, I mean, it was one of the bigger no-brainers we've done. So basically I had hired Ricky right before we started using Hover, and as soon as we did it, it's like, all right, you're fired. I got AI. Get out. So, I didn't fire, but so that's been a really good tool. And yeah, it does you also can upload a lot of the ones we do, we've got the drawing plans from the architect or from whatever, and you can, instead of the house isn't built or whatever, you can just upload the plans and it'll do it from the plan set as well. It takes a day instead of a couple hours, but still it's.
Does anyone know if that will work with Structure Studios, Jason? Hover?
Nothing works with Structure Studios.
Thanks,
Who said it?
Thanks, Connor.
I know.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
Not even your computer works with Structure.
No, that's true. That's true.
No.
All right.
How does it work with the roof pitch?
Thought I'd ask.
I'll say it gives you the SketchUp model. That's the file type. And if you have to make any adjustments to the house, the way it looks, or add any more detail like we do, or if anything is wrong and you have to change it, you have to do it within SketchUp because it's a SketchUp model. But I think Structure Studios accepts SketchUp models just fine, right?
And Jason, I think you'll probably touch on this shortly, but we do not accept what comes out of that software as a finished product.
Correct. Yeah, but
so
I was going to say correct.
Touch on that more, I'm sure, but it is not gutters and sills and correct windows and colors on mullions and houses and textures. There's none of that. It is a block. So while useful for the grand scheme of things, it's not a finished product.
Mm-hmm. Well, and let me say something too about all the Structure Studios haters out there. So a lot of my clients are retirees, and they're moving here to Las Vegas, and they've got a nest egg, and this is their last final, their final home, and they want a pool, and they want a landscape, and they want it really amazing. So when I do the Structure Studios design for them, and I bring them in and I show them, they're wowed. Because they don't know Lumion, they don't know Revit, they've never seen the other stuff, and it does still help with my clients. Granted, they're at about $80,000 jobs, which is great for me because then I can roll out those jobs, and it does its part. So it's working for me.
Yes.
Although I know that there's Lumion out there, and I've seen the renderings, and I drool over them, but the majority of my clients have no clue. So.
So, and I mean, we're kind of bashing because it's what everyone's doing now and whatever, but I was a Structure Studios guys for, 15 years. So, and I've done it, and, I kind of felt like we took it as far as we could take it, but it definitely has its place in market. Although I'm kind of, just from what I'm seeing and the way it's headed, it may be a thing of the past coming up. So, but
and it's not necessarily the technology. I think it's upper management.
Yeah, they're kicking people off. If
once you get mad from them and they treat you wrong, it's like, okay, well, there's other options out there. I might go look. So I think that's where a lot of the frustration is. But to your point, I mean, I grew my business it grew big time because of that long time ago.
That still uses Structure Studios for his stuff. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I still use, I basically take some of their stuff or other landscape architects, and I still use Structure Studios to do our takeoffs on some jobs. So it does its job for a lot of things. I think the biggest thing is business wise, they've just made some really bad calls and treating
not a terrible program.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Despite your previous comment, Hunter.
No, I'm going to delete that out of the video.
That's right. Because nothing works.
It never ends.
Correct. So, so the Lumion is kind of the last to finish up on this part. Lumion, you can take either SketchUp or Revit and then go into Lumion and do the rendering, and that's what all the pictures and videos that we've done the last 2 years have been. So that's the program that we've kind of already covered all that. But the last software that we use a lot of is different Adobe products, and some of you may be very familiar with those too. But from Photoshop to InDesign to, is it Premiere Pro? I know Dakota does all the videos in that, and I mean it's a whole suite of products that are, you take that's where you get into post production and how to make it look good, and take it to a whole other level to get into that. So, any other? We've kind of already covered a lot of that. Any other thoughts on that before we move on to a different subject? So.
Yeah, one more quick question.
Yes.
So I've only ever known Structure Studios, I guess, coming up on like 4 years now. I guess what is like an educated, if I were to just commit myself to learning CAD, learning SketchUp, learning Lumion, and then whatever Photoshop and all of that, how much time do I really need to set aside to just go at it on top of my 14-hour daily job?
Yeah, on top of everything else you're doing and living and all of the above. So I may let others answer that question. So Dakota, Hunter, anyone?
Maybe Hunter, this one?
Yeah, so I just touched SketchUp for the first time. Other than Jason and I tried it back in like 2006 one time when it was free, and it was like super simple. And I don't know if you remember that or not, Jason.
I do. Yeah.
So I just got back into it probably a year ago for really the first time, and I can model something now. I think that Dakota has taught me enough of the tricks and tips kind of in the beginning of, hey, you need to make sure and group these items, or you need to make sure and do this every time. And it's just the consistencies and the same kind of integrity that we need in drawing in Structure Studios or in AutoCAD. It's those small consistencies that we need to get down before you can get everything else, the big picture. But I mean, seriously, it's probably, as you said earlier, a few days into it of really trying. You go, oh yeah, this is making sense. Okay, this is looking like something. I've got something going here now. The shortcuts, the commands, looking that kind of stuff up. I'm a big proponent of, using keys, not buttons, and keeping that going. So I'd say a few days of just playing with it and trying to get into a project would
and be willing to be upset. Like, you don't expect to be seamless, and it's going to be, you know, anytime you try something new, it's going to be clunky. You're going to fail. You're going to get pissed off at it. And damn it, what am I doing? And but I've gotten
3 or 4 months
passable. So yeah.
So is that 3 or 4 months of work?
6 months of mental work.
Good at it, or is it
of actual work?
What's that?
6 months of mental work, 3 days of actual work.
Yeah, once you get it mentally, then it clicks. But
it's not completely terrible. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
No, and I'll say also Lumion is the easiest program I've ever learned on anything too. It's very intuitive. You fly around it with like typical like video game controls. It makes the menu system in it is super easy, and the rendering stuff is similar to Structure Studio. So Lumion is definitely not that big of a bump and not that challenging to learn. SketchUp will probably be the trickiest part of those 3 programs to learn, maybe AutoCAD. And I'm sure once we get into another class that teaches those programs a little better, people will be able to pick it up real fast.
So we don't need AutoCAD. We just would need to learn SketchUp and then Lumion.
So,
good.
I'm an AutoCAD. Well, apparently Revit. I'm being told I'm not supposed to use AutoCAD anymore, but I think you use AutoCAD as the base, and then AutoCAD is your drafting, SketchUp is your modeling, Lumion is your render. So I use AutoCAD every single day.
Because you're old.
Because I'm old. I know, correct. So.
Jason, is this any future talk for Dakota traditional classes, or is something that's already in the
well, it's so we started saying, you know, where can we take this and whatever, and I've got I've got sort of written the program for design software series going through AutoCAD and Structure and SketchUp and Revit and Lumion, all of these. Figured out basically a 15, you know, like courses or, you know, lessons to really go through basics, more advanced of each program. It's something I want to take Elevate and what we want to do. It's not going to be next month. So it's probably a year from that becoming reality, but that is a future thing where we will be able to have these courses teaching all of these programs. So that's once we get past the basic stuff, then we'll move into the
a year. You're going to make us wait a year? Come on, man.
I mean, I gotta
Michelle, there's other classes to take. Don't worry.
That's right. I'm trying to get ready for the next one. I
was like, okay, he doesn't need a month. I'll give him till March.
Yeah. I got like 8 other before that. No pressure. It's fine. Sure enough.
Quick
Dakota's waiting. He's anxious.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
That's right. Sign us up. There we go.
Really quick question while we're still on this subject.
Yes.
In the Structure Studio, in the CB's chat groups, there's been like people have been looking for alternatives. Do any of you guys have experience with Chief Architect? That's one that's come up a few times and that I've been kind of curious about, and just wondering if that's just a different flavor of Structure Studios or if it's something that you guys would actually use.
So I may chime in on this one. I've used Chief Architect as a kitchen designer. I've used it exclusively for that. I have played around a little bit using it for pools and outdoor stuff, but I haven't dove deep into it. I do think it has capabilities, but the modeling's not going to be near what SketchUp is.
Okay.
I played with it about 4 or 5 years ago, just because I was trying to do more on the houses, because Structure Studio gives you nothing on the house. So I tried to see if I could integrate the two and do Chief Architect for the house and Structure for the outside, and it was clunky. So I think at least my opinion, Chief Architect was more the Structure Studios of the inside, but it didn't really have a lot that was adaptable. So it's more of a different a niche product than a general one that can be adapted to all the different design fields.
Yeah, even what I do, and it's designed for kitchens in a way, I still prefer a different program over it anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one more question, one thing to bring up. With SketchUp, one thing to bring up to everybody else would be the extensions that are required to make your life easier. There's certain things that you could download that will help you assist you build a house. And I was curious, Dakota, if you had, obviously you probably have a tons of extensions, but if you had like a list or something like that of the main ones that you use, or like every designer should have that, I think that would be really beneficial as well.
Yeah, I'd say if there's one extension anybody gets, it's called Curic Mirror, and it's a mirror tool, and it makes and you can use it just like the move tool and all these other things where you can hit control to copy something while you do it too. And you can pick an axis to mirror on. There's not a default like mirror tool in the program. And another really useful one we use a lot is called Valley Architects. And it has really cool tools in it for like fencing, for example. I use it mostly for fencing, railing, and some landscape type stuff. I'd say those are my two most helpful extensions.
Yeah, and to your point, you just got homework, Dakota. But if you make a list, and I'll email it out. So of ones we use.
Sorry, Dakota.
That's
right.
Fine. That's right. All good.
Yeah, we.
All right. Beat that dead horse, I think. So we're gonna hit a few more things, and we'll work on the project a little bit as well. So the next thing is really what's it take to make a model, no matter which program you're using. There's some 5 real keys to creating really special models, and this is probably a lot of you guys already do great models, et cetera, too. So it's kind of a review, but the main thing that I've always hit on when I'm used to teach a Structure Studios class, really modeling no matter what program, but the house being detailed on the house. And this is where I was going to talk kind of further what Hunter does. Yes, we use the hover model to build the structure of the house, but getting in and knowing the architecture, knowing the terms of the house, knowing the soffits and the lintels and the eaves and the windows and the mullions and all of those things, and getting super detailed with it is the game changer. If you don't do that, it looks just like a box. So, and even no matter what program. So you still have to really pay attention to the house and the details and inside and rooms and walls inside, and just you can take it down a rabbit hole as far as you want to go. But if you want to make a model that feels real, if you're sitting at a client's house and you're showing them what this can be, the more detail you put on the house, it's a launching point that they visually then go into. This is my house, this is where I live, this is what I do, not just a box. The next thing that really makes a huge difference is materials, and not just this one material and copying it over and over again. Use varied materials, and this is something I do like about Lumion over others. Is it gives you, like, again, I'm bashing, but the structure is basically they charge companies a certain amount. They'll put their materials on there, and if the company doesn't want to pay for it, then they take their material off, and you end up with just some basic stuff in a lot of cases, and it's hard to add other things in. There are great options for materials in Lumion, SketchUp Lumion. That what is the one? Polygon? Is that the site you use, Dakota?
Yeah, Polygon 2 eyes.
Poliigon. Polygon. Okay. And you can literally, it's just hundreds of what material by choice, whatever it is, you can just go like, brick material, stone material, tile material, cloth material, whatever it is. And you can have you go through just endless choices to find what you're looking for. So that's a good one. I know this picture, I stole one that we did is worked with kind of standing over Dakota's back saying, well, I want to do a cool, pattern tile. And we, found some interesting things and play with stuff. So it's not just you're limited to the NPT tile selection from Structure Studios. Details on the outdoor living, a huge part of a good model. I mean, really go into, what does it look like? What does the water feature do? How does the fire work? Don't just kind of just cut and paste, but really pay attention to all the different details. Makes a world of difference. In getting into the pergolas and the how the wood works on that, and furniture and accessories and all the things. If you can really take it down to the hot dogs on the grill and the yoga mat by the spillover waterfall, the acrylic panel spilling over, it's the wellness element. The more detailed you get with all of the outdoor living spaces, makes that model come alive where others fail. And the other thing I see, especially in structure studios, is complete the site. Don't just put it on a field of green. The sea of green that site, you just put your house and your pool and you don't put neighbors in. When I was in structure all the time, I would do all the neighbors around me. I would do always want to hide the horizon line. So you don't put the trees in the background. You don't ever want to see just where it falls off the face of the earth and disappears. Give it context, complete the site, have the elevations that come in. And I know structure will obviously do the modeling now as well. Dakota, can you talk quickly about putting the aerial underneath? That's always a good look. And is that?
Yeah. So we have two ways that we do that, and SketchUp has a way to do it, and Lumion has a way to do it. And depending on the project, how much manipulation I'm having to do to the site, I might use one or the other. And it's really cool because it's been a few times where we'll be in a presentation and we just zoom way out into the sky, and it's literally a satellite image of everything around them. And I've modeled the trees into the area where there's trees on the satellite map. And it just looks very like you can see all the context, and it brings up new questions, and it highlights ways that we responded to the views that they have, or the surrounding area. And then whenever you get back down to like the perspective of standing there, you see where because you placed trees where there were trees on the satellite view, it just looks even more real to the client.
And how, like you were showing the video earlier, where you're going, kind of looks like ghosted out, goes to plan, all of a sudden turns into 3D. All that is easy-ish. I mean, I don't know if it's easy that he does it. I don't know if it's easy or not, but it's doable in a way that's in using SketchUp, Lumion, etc. So you can model in a lot of different ways. But the site, don't just have your design and screw everything else. I don't care about anything with my space. It looks that way. But if you bring in all the other site elements, hide the horizon, look at the grass, landscape it well, that makes a huge difference. And the last thing is pay advanced presentation tools. Don't just do at the meeting. I mean, do the booklet. We give usually 20 to 30 pictures in a PDF bound, booklet with a cover, and make it really interesting. We do a video that's usually a couple minutes, and man, it blows them away when you do this stuff. So, and then you put it on social media, and you put it out, and people start talking, and they start bouncing in their seats, and going, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. So we've had some interesting reactions, to say the least. So
there's no way that's my backyard.
Yeah, no. So, or it's fun, like grab her husband's hand, and oh my god, that's
they start tearing up. You're their souls.
You're done. It's all good. Correct.
Yeah.
Where do I sign? So those are important parts for the modeling itself. So I have here's one more. I guess the music isn't working on it, but kind of show the.
There it goes. Just turn it up.
Oh, is it playing now?
Kind of.
Turn way up. There you go. So this is one in College Station, Texas, we're doing, and just kind of paying attention to the modeling is what I'm showing here. But the SketchUp, did you do this in Revit, Dakota, or is it?
No, this is SketchUp.
Yeah. But you can see the different furnitures. Water goes down the slide. You make your slides. Bar, TVs everywhere. So. Lazy River. You see some of the different landscape you can do in that. So this is Texas A&M, and they're a massive Texas A&M fan. That was the whole purpose of this design. But to be able to do the full interior and do, all kind of details to add. Did a big
and when you're presenting it on a normal computer, this is like pixely. It's really choppy right now. So, but when you're presenting it on your computer, it's really clear and smooth.
These videos are on Jason's Facebook page too to watch in 4K and smooth and
yeah,
right.
To that point.
It's awesome.
Some interesting shots in there, don't they?
So it's within eye shot of Kyle Field, and Dakota ended it by playing the fight song. Well played. Yeah.
So the rendering of this is done in Lumion?
Yes.
So, and do you use post-production, like I use Power Director to stitch like the video together? Or can you do all of that in Lumion?
I use another program. Like Jason said, we use Adobe products for a lot of things. And Premiere Pro is my main video editor. And then there's another one called After Effects that I use for more detailed effects stuff, like throwing the 2D plan into that shot in the beginning to where the 2D plan is lined up with the footage.
Okay.
And that's that's one of like 6 or 7 Adobe products I use every week.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You guys so fancy.
He's good. I mean, what can I say? There you go.
Show off.
That's right.
Thanks.
Those youngsters, they know what they're doing.
Oh, no kidding. That's he just looked at me.
Didn't go to school for nothing.
That's right. You do that. Have fun. So, a few more just comments about the client presentation I was going to make. One, it's really best to do that one at your office whenever possible. We bring clients in, put it on the big screen, show what it can be. You got samples, materials. This is really where you show off your skills, your abilities, what you can do. It's generally better than I used to do it except before I had an office. I'd go to their places and I just show it on my 17-inch screen, and it's fine. But if you can do whatever it takes to make it wow factor for them is a big deal. So, and where the meeting with them originally is all about them at their house, listen, feel what's going on. This one's about you. You're trying to sell what you do, your skills, your processes. You can make this happen. This is where you're trying to show it off. So, another thing I brought in here too, just on when you're really before the presentation, is you're going through the design, is be your own worst critic when you're designing it. Think through your process and don't just go in and be like, well, I'm going to try this and throw it out and I hope it works. I always say I try, and any decision I make in design, I throw out, I'll try, boom, I'm going to try and make this work, whatever it is. And then I immediately go into, okay, why won't it work? And I look at it and I start to tear it apart and shoot holes through it. And if I can look at it from the front angle and I can say, nope, that's not going to work with whatever, then boom, that one's out. But if it works from the main, sight line, then I'll go stand and shoot around from the other side, look at from the back angle or another side, or look at it from above and feel, is there any reason it won't work? And if there's any reason it won't work, then I need to change it. Go ahead and make all the potential revisions that could come up as you're thinking through the house, the site, the client, and the reason, and see if what you're push the envelope, try something. If it doesn't work, pull it. And then when you finally decide on something and go with it, then the next decision builds on that one. But you're constantly trying to beat yourself up and look at why it won't work, so that when you're done your design, you've tried to kill it from every direction. If it won't die, then it's a good design. And then when you go to the client meeting and you're going through the process and go through where I started, what my thoughts were, all this thing. And if the question starts to come up of, well, what if you did this? And you can say, oh, I tried that. I like where you're thinking on that. I wanted to make that work, and I looked at it, and I put that in there, and then I tried to look at it from the other direction, and I looked at it from this side, and it didn't work because of this. And pretty soon, all of your reasons start to stand up, and you can see it's not just they don't just make revisions and changes because they think it's there. You say, okay, I'll try it. If you've already tried it, you can say, this I tried, this doesn't work. So it gives you a good out or a good reasoning when you're in your meeting. And pretty much when you describe that process at the end of the meeting, there's like not a lot they can say. It's generally it's like that's it. You don't have lots of revisions typically. So unless it's budgetary and changing to remove this, take stuff out. So walk through the process, understand the why behind it, impress the hell out of them. That was what a comment that we had. We finished a whole presentation on a really big one, and there was sort of that awkward moment at the end where the client, they're looking at it, do they like it, where are they, whatever, and the lady Catherine just looked at it and said, "This is stupid. This is just stupid." And she's like, "I'm sorry, did I miss whatever?" He's like, "No, like just." What do I even think about? It's just stupid, like crazy good stupid. So, but when you can impress them to the point they just don't even know what to say, it's fun. So it's kind of what makes what we do fun.